Welcome to the Beard Speaks podcast. Hey, all right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Beard Speaks podcast. That is right, guys, season 4. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been loyal, has been listening to the show, sharing the show, and wow, just checking us out on social media, guys. Thank you so much for all the interaction. So if you want to find us online, just go to www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. It's hard to even say that. Thebeardspeakspodcast.com. That's right. You'll find links there for all our social media. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. So go ahead. Check us out, follow us, and share your thoughts. But before we get started today, and what a great show I have for you guys today, I have author Christian Ray Flores. Oh, man, picked up his book, The Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America. This guy's story is amazing, guys, and you do not want to miss this one. So before we saddle up and buckle in and check out the show, let me give a shout out to all the cities. Well, I try to do all of them, man, but it just keeps getting, the list gets bigger and bigger every time I check it out. So big shout out to everyone out there in Scottsdale, Arizona, Los Angeles, California, Knoxville, Tennessee, Washington, Virginia, Ashburn, Virginia, Minneapolis, Minnesota. What's up? Park Ridge, Illinois, Roselle, Illinois, Tacoma, Washington, Portage, Indiana, San Antonio, Texas, Austin, Texas. Man, this list just keeps growing. Houston, Texas. What's up, Houston? New York. What's up, New York? Atlanta, Georgia, Seattle, Washington, Topeka, Kansas, Burbank, Illinois, Naperville, Illinois, Federal Way, Washington. We've got Phoenix, Arizona checking in, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Schaumburg, Illinois. What's up, Schaumburg? Brooklyn, New York. Hey, what's up, all my paisans in Brooklyn? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania checking in. Home of Rocky Balboa. That's right. Geneva, Illinois, Kansas City, Missouri, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Waterloo, Iowa. All my friends out there in Waterloo, Iowa, baby. Stony Brook, New York, Denver, Colorado, Syracuse, New Jersey. Again, the list just goes on. And the country, we are just hitting almost every country out there, man. And I mean, I'm just so blessed that you guys are checking out the show. Obviously here in the United States, we've got Singapore checking in, the Russian Federation, France, United Kingdom, Israel, China, Spain, Germany, Japan, Canada, Sweden, Hong Kong, Mexico, South Korea, Australia, India, Bulgaria, South Africa, Jamaica, Nigeria, the Netherlands, Ireland, Brazil, Indonesia, Ukraine, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Kyrgyzstan, Vietnam, United Arab, Ghana, Malta, Thailand, Switzerland, Philippines, Italy, my homeland, Turkey, Greece, Poland, Costa Rica, Hungary, Argentina, New Zealand, Denmark, Finland. You guys get the point, right, man? I just a little podcast that is growing. It's getting out there. Lots of ears on it, man, and I appreciate that. I'm very blessed. And where can you hear the Beard speak? Well, I'm glad you guys asked. We're on all of the podcast platforms. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podcast Index, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Podcast Index, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, Good Pods, and True Fans. We're everywhere. So wherever you guys get your podcast, man, go check it out. And again, we're also streaming on YouTube. So go ahead and check out the Beard Speaks podcast on YouTube, and you won't be disappointed. Also, some cool videos out there that you guys might enjoy. So without any further ado, here is my sit down and chat with Christian Ray Flores. Check it out. All right, guys, today I am proud to have Christian Ray Flores here, author of Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Pat, so happy to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. So for people that don't know, you are not only an author, but entrepreneur, a speaker, director, podcaster, philanthropist, artist, and producer. Man, you got your toes in a lot of different things, huh?
I'm I believe a bit of an eclectic person. Yes. That's
awesome. How do you juggle all these things with life? That's one of the hardest things. And a lot of people that, have a hard time just going to work every day and not juggling that's life. True. You really are able to put your heart out there in all these different areas. And how do you keep all that straight?
Well, it's actually not easy at all. And I think I'm more adept at it, maybe because of some of the things that were sort of hardwired into me early on. But even for me, actually, it is hard, and there's an art to it. I don't feel like I've figured it out fully, but my answer to that, to do it well, I think you need to just align your purpose and have sort of maybe 2-3 things that somehow work together well, like some synergies that make sense, right?
Right.
But honestly, even for me, it's actually not easy.
It's all right, but you do it and you do it well. As I was telling you, I was just recently in Vegas. I do some traveling for work, and I was out there for about a week. And man, I got to tell you, more than 2 or 3 days in Vegas is too much. I was there for a week, but I picked up your book and read through it. And it's a great book. And one of the things that stood out to me was your childhood and how you grew up. And, the freedom that we have in this country right now, the way people are divided. And, it breaks my heart to see families and friends and everyone's fighting over so many different things. And you mentioned something that stood out to me that's just it rings true. It's like Wi-Fi, like you say. Mm-hmm. You don't know how it works, but the minute that Wi-Fi goes down, you realize, oh man, what am I going to do now? That's how freedom is. So what I would love for you to tell the listeners is your backstory, how you grew up, just reading that, the stories about, listening to the radio quiet, listening to American music, different things like that. People don't really understand that. And I'd love for you to kind of share that story about how you grew up and how your freedoms weren't there.
Yeah. And that's really the genesis behind the book, is that I'm a very grateful immigrant, right, in America. And I just love being here. I feel like I'm privileged and lucky. And the reason for that is because I grew up on 3 different continents. This is actually my 4th continent and my 6th country. And I have firsthand experience of lack of freedom or oppression or poverty that shouldn't be there unless, a government basically sort of clamps down on freedom and entrepreneurship. So that's why I wrote the book. I feel like that's exactly what you said, is that I think people really have to find a newfound love and appreciation for their country in America, because it is a wonderful, wonderful country, imperfect as it is, messy as it is really extraordinary. It really is. I can say it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Because what we have here is not normal, basically. And I think it's hard to understand if you grew up and that's all you know, right? Just like you said, as Wi-Fi, right? If you have Wi-Fi everywhere and it's lightning fast and you go to a place where it's not there, you can feel it. Right. Like you go, what do I do now, right? So it's sort of the same thing. But the backstory, thank you for asking, Pat, it's I have this very strange childhood. I was born in Moscow. My parents moved to Chile. My dad's Chilean. My mom was Russian. They met in college, right? So, and we were going to just spend the rest of our lives there until there was a military coup, and my father ended up in a concentration camp. We didn't know if we're going to see him again. A lot of people got tortured and killed, and tens of thousands were arrested. It was a massive, like a fascist sort of coup. And we ended up lucky enough to be alive and in a refugee facility under the UN auspices, under the protection of the UN, actually, because you couldn't really run anywhere. They will find you, basically, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we ended up basically, that sent us traveling. We went to Germany first. We got asylum in Germany. Back to Russia. My mom wanted to be with her family. She was really shell-shocked and sort of PTSD from the whole thing. And then my dad found a job in Mozambique in Africa. And it's still one of the poorest countries in the world. And it was definitely that back then. It was sort of starting over, and they were importing expats to help them build the country up after they got their independence from Portugal. So, we saw there a Marxist government. Both my parents were Marxists and atheists. And we saw a civil war there like a year in. So I was it's really interesting you can study history or you can witness history.
Yes.
And I feel like you have deeper insights if you're in the middle of it. Right. Much more nuanced, let's put it that way, right? So I was there and I saw sort of how the Cold War being fought through proxy wars in distant places looked like and felt like. And then eventually, after my parents divorced, we went back to Russia, to Moscow, and it was still in the Soviet days. And it was this just really sort of oppressive, almost like grayscale, mediocrity center, I called it, right? And for me, that's how it felt because I grew up free. I grew up as a child not feeling that oppression, right? And then I was all of a sudden I felt very constricted. And I can feel the fear sort of in the air, and how politically correct was sort of every child knew what to say and not to say and when, which is really terrifying. And I was lucky enough to see the whole thing fall apart in 1991. So I saw again tanks in the streets of Moscow and an attempted coup. Yes, like who does that?
Right. One of the things you talked about in your book is when you stood up in class and started saying things that weren't politically, and all of a sudden the teacher's looking at you. I felt that, when I read it.
Yeah, there was this quiet. I think I asked, there's a couple of times. I think I asked one time, why are we in Afghanistan?
Right.
And then the second time, I think I asked, why did the Bolsheviks assassinate the whole Tsarist family, the kids, the children, the maids?
Family, yeah.
It seems cruel, and everybody went quiet, And what scares me is not that the teacher would find it weird, but that the children, 15-year-olds,
like they
would
knew.
Know this is not an appropriate question to ask. I mean, you have to be then indoctrinated by that age,
Yeah.
But they blew me off as like, okay, here's the foreigner. He hasn't. He's not reading the room correctly, which I was not clearly, So,
right.
So I saw all of that. And of course, entrepreneurship was illegal. And we were still sort of these amateur entrepreneurs when we were there, doing all kinds of crazy, dangerous things. And then eventually when the wall came down, the Iron Curtain came down, I was just very lucky to almost like explode into the scene with all of my pent up desire for opportunity and creativity and entrepreneurship. So I was very successful as an artist there. I helped elect a president, which was the last time the communists had a chance to come back to power. So all of that happened, by my mid-20s, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's when you started singing and putting together your music and stuff like that, which is awesome. Yeah. Something that probably made you feel really free at that time, right? Because that wasn't allowed.
No. I mean, to go from almost like this dark-skinned kid, a minority, and a foreigner in a place that's ultra controlled, command and control type place, to seeing the whole thing all of a sudden becoming actually free market. And then I offer what I felt like was a winning sound and songs and music. And just because the public wanted it, I was everywhere, so it's like literally this is the ultimate demonstration of what a free market can do.
Yeah.
It would have been completely impossible just 5 years before that. Completely impossible.
Right. That's crazy. But nonetheless, you persevered and got through that. And, is that, so at what point in your life did you decide, when you came here to America, how did that progress? How did that happen?
It was actually not even in my plans. I married an American. Mm-hmm. I met my wife, Deb. She's from Wisconsin. I met in LA. We're at this conference for Christian entertainers globally, right? So I was speaking and singing and, making friends, and she was there. And she comes from also creative background. So she's a theater major. She worked for MTV, VH1, Universal. So she knows the industry. So we sort of clicked and fell in love like immediately. Yeah. And she moved to be with me basically. And we were going to just stay there. But her health really suffered with the climate. That was not expected. Yeah. And eventually I just sort of came to the conclusion, look, I want to, more than I want to see myself sort of take advantage of the brand that I've built in this whole space. I want to see my wife healthy. So we'll move to the States. And that was basically the main reason. Priorities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the things we do for love. No, for sure. That's exactly it. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So when you came here, how did you find yourself assimilating into the culture? And it really, it must have been a big impact on you for the freedom that was here that you didn't grow up with. Yes. So it was to me, I loved it because I feel like I was already almost like picking up I was tuned to the frequency of America since I was a teenager. And so I just loved everything about it, and being here and experiencing it, I was just very excited about it. Now, it's not easy to get all the nuance. You think you know the nuance, even if you speak the language, but you don't, right? Like, just to give you a quick, a funny illustration, I was, we moved to Florida like a year in, and we bought a house, and there was this mailbox, and I go, Deb, do you, how do I send a letter? Right. She goes, put it in the mailbox. I said, no, this is to receive a letter. Like, I know that they deliver the letters and we pick them up. I already know that. It's cool. And she goes, no, you put it in the, I said, no, but they're going to pick it up. And she goes, yeah, you just put the little flag up. And that just rocked my world. I was like, I literally said, God bless America. I believe it. But it's just the smallest little things that you take for granted here. You have to learn as an immigrant. And it's like hundreds of those little examples. But I think I did really well assimilating because I am, I was sort of this very plastic person because I had to move so much. Right. So I sort of picked, I think I do better than most immigrants here. Yeah. This is my fourth language. I'm a sponge. I like learning, and I like learning other people's strengths. Right. So, I was just soaking it in, still soaking it in. Sure. So How long have you been here now? 20 years. 20 years. Yeah. No, it is something. It's something completely different. Both my parents are immigrants and came from Italy, right? Okay. So I'm first generation. And we would visit back and forth in Italy. It's really funny growing up here in America. It's the same thing, going to Italy. We would go almost every summer, and I hated that my parents wouldn't take us to Disney or, even to go up to, we're from Chicago, and it was like, we can't even go to Wisconsin or New York or something, cool that you hear all your friends talking about. But now looking back at, I'm 53 years old, looking back now as a kid, I was like, I got to go to Italy every summer where kids are going, wow, man, you got to go to Europe. We never got to do that. We went to Disney, but my parents coming here, it was the same thing. My mom
never really learned to speak the language, even today. You know, she went to work as a seamstress downtown in Chicago, and my dad went and worked in concrete, as all Italians probably did at the time, right? So I had to, I fought on the opposite side of you. I fought that immigrant side of because it was embarrassing growing up. Right? Because other kids would make fun of you, or I almost felt like the outcast, even though I was born here. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, friends would come over and they couldn't come in through the upstairs because the whole, you know, front room was in plastic and you had to come down to the basement. And then friends would make fun of me that, you know, we were offended that they had to come into my basement, but that's where we lived. The basement was, you know, all redone and remodeled and nice, but the upstairs was off limits. So it's kind of funny, right?
Yeah. Those little quirky things that immigrants do, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of funny on the flip side, but you know, growing up here, you know, we do take things for granted, and that's like I said in the opening. It's like right now we're in this politically charged, you know, environment where, you know, people are either on one side or the other side, and you know, I joke around, but it is true. I said, you know, the left wing and the right wing all belong to the same bird.
Yeah.
You know, and it's looking past all of that and trying to appreciate it. And I suggest everyone goes out and get this book just to see the opportunities we have, you know, through someone else's eyes that didn't grow up with it. And that's kind of what you bring to the table, you know?
Yeah. And I try to also bring substance, right?
Right.
In the sense that it's not just the stories to illustrate a point, but there are insights there that are actual real insights. I have a degree in economics. I've actually witnessed socialism and Marxism and how it, like, from the inside.
Yeah.
So I can recognize it. I can recognize almost like the derivatives of that being essentially pushed here in the States, and I can see it a mile away. And I remember when the first time that showed up, sort of from the fringes, it showed up almost like in the mainstream conversations.
Sure.
I remember talking to Deb going, can people not see that this is total Marxism? And she was like, they can't. They actually can't.
That's crazy.
And to me, that was like, whoa, no way. And so I have sort of almost like this, like X-ray vision.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, you come from, you grew up in it, and here yet people put on these blinders.
Yeah.
And I think they're just too, I don't know what the right word for it is, just too loyal to either one party or another to not want to believe that they're seeing or hearing what they're hearing.
Yeah. And Marxism is just, quite frankly, it is an attractive ideology because it appeals to compassion. And then it flips it onto cruelty and absolute inhumane, violence, actually. So it's just the most weird thing. But those of us, like, if you ask anybody who came from the socialist bloc, Cuba, Venezuela, Poland, Bulgaria, right? And they will all go, "Oh yeah, we see it a mile away."
Right. It boggles my mind, but I think people, here in the United States really need to talk to foreigners and people that have come from these countries and really try to understand. Like you said, it appeals to your heart, it appeals to your kindness, and in the grand scheme of things, I really truly believe we all are giving and we all are kind and we want that, right?
Of course, yeah.
But like you said, sometimes it just gets derailed.
It really does, yeah. I think so too, yeah.
Which is crazy. But that's his life. So what are some of the because again, you're a speaker too, so you get out there and you're speaking. What are some of the things that really get you out there and motivated to touch people? I mean, you do so much for people. It's like it's heartwarming, and there should be like thousands of you out there doing this. So what motivates you to do that?
Honestly, fundamentally, it's love, right?
Yeah.
I really like I love people.
Yeah.
I love humanity. And what really gets me going is sort of the secrets to human flourishing.
Yeah.
And even though I knew, I hesitated to write the book because I knew it was going to be construed as political. But really, it's a book about an environment where human flourishing is maximized.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. It's not really about endorsing a party or a wing, right? But it's really about, okay, America at its best. There's a lot of things that have gone way south in the United States. But at its best, it's an extraordinary place for human flourishing, for a huge amount of people to be able to be fulfilled, to create, to pursue their dreams, to create something new. And that's what I celebrate in the book. And what motivates me, that's a macro level, for example, right? So if I speak about the 10 reasons why, almost like a constellation of reasons that aligned at the same time to form this place called America, and why this is extraordinarily rare in human history for it to happen, and extraordinarily benevolent. The net of America is absolutely a plus, a massive plus in the world, not only for the Americans, but actually for the rest of the world. Things like freedom, acceptance of immigrants, things like this cultural DNA of faith, family values, philanthropic side of America that is extraordinary, actually. Things like grit, things like the pursuit of happiness as a national aspiration that actually people actually think that way here. Anti-fragility, it's one of the things that I list, is sort of, we normalize failure as not shameful, but almost like the thing that happens on the way to success.
Right.
And in so many other societies, none of those things are on a high level, or very few of those things are on a high level. And in America, all of those things are on a high level at the same time, which creates incredible, opportunity, freedom, prosperity. I mean, think about it, 5% of the population, we're just 5% of the population, and we produce 25% of the global GDP as a nation.
Right.
I mean, it's really remarkable, right? Not to mention just the ripple effect of prosperity across the world that is definitely catalyzed and initiated by the United States and what we brought to the world.
Right.
So, and then on a micro level, I sort of weave that in a little bit in the book, because that's why I do coaching, right? I coach professionals because I'm interested in human flourishing. And because I've seen so much suffering and oppression and like zero opportunity places and things like that, I'm really I get really excited about helping professionals bring forth the thing that they are to the world, the gift they are to the world, right?
Sure.
And I find that that's sort of what surprises me, is that, compared to most places, this is an incredible place to live, and people still sometimes don't pursue the highest meaning and their highest purpose in this world because of fear.
Yeah.
And sort of one of the things that I do in coaching is I help them go, hey, this is actually a really good place to explore those things. And it is a bit scary, but let me help you overcome that, so you can bring your full self as a gift to us, to the rest of us. Right. So human flourishing is basically sort of my passion. And
that's awesome. People have so much potential. They just need to know how to tap into it.
Yes. Right. Indeed. Yeah.
That's what it is.
And I think part of the need, I think, in the United States is that, look, there is a downside to having a good life.
Yeah.
There's a downside, right? And because a good life produces weak people.
Sure.
And weak people produce hard times, and hard times produce strong people. So, so I basically sort of try to shortcut that so that people don't have to necessarily experience bad times, but they become strong people.
That's actually really good. Because that's very true. I know that, going through, rough patches in life, if you look at it the right way and use them as learning lessons and stepping stones, like you said, like failure is not something to be ashamed of, right?
Yeah.
How many times has, someone like Elon Musk failed? You know what I mean? We just see the tip of the iceberg. We never see all the work and and all the grit and everything it takes someone like that, to be successful, right? We don't see that, nor did it really be talked about. We just see the end result. And some people are foolish enough to think that the end result is all there is, right?
Yeah. And I find that America is the best place on earth for this.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, okay, you can fail, but there's so many opportunities. There's so many chances to present what you have to offer, services or products or goods or whatever, right? Technology. And this is an incredible place. And the worst that can happen is that you fail. And as a matter of fact, it's actually guaranteed that you fail. Yeah. So fail more often so you can get to you learn from it and then you go further, as opposed to places where the mark is not even there.
No.
Or, it's illegal to do what you do, or somebody will take it from you,
Right. And
or get arrested for it, as a matter of fact. Right. So
exactly.
So to me, I look at, not just to me, but any immigrant, right? We look around and going, what are you guys afraid of? This is incredible. This is an incredible place, right?
No.
Figure it out. You have a lot to offer.
That's very true. So where at one point and I know you talked a little bit earlier about both your mother and father were atheists. Where did your Christian faith come in?
I was at the peak of my music career.
Okay.
And I realized that being an extraordinarily good entertainer, being in the top 1%, let's say, is not enough.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact. And you have to have character, you have to know relationships, you have to have other qualities that are not directly related to the industry to make you successful. So I found myself literally with the number one hit in like clinically depressed.
Yeah.
Because all of my flat sides came out and all the cracks that were under the surface came to the surface.
Sure.
And I was just struggling majorly. And I met this guy who's a Canadian missionary.
Okay.
And to that point, I was very I disliked Christians.
Yeah.
I didn't hate them, but I was like, whatever.
Right.
They're like sheep.
Yep.
And they are actually in a good way. But but it's basically, it was like, this is for naive people. This is just to mass control people. And there was a point to it, because the only thing that I experienced Christianity was sort of the Russian Orthodox Church, which was sort of fairly, at least from my perspective on the surface, was not useful.
Right.
Like I couldn't see the utility, right, of it.
Right.
But this gentleman who I met, who was a missionary, he was just this incredibly wise, kind guy with a great family, and I wanted to build a family, and I come from 3 generations of broken homes, and it was sort of my heartache. Yeah. And I was like, hey, can you teach me how to live? Basically, that was sort of my, and that was the smartest thing I've ever did. And that's why I coach. I think it's because I didn't treat him like just a spiritual guide or a pastor. I actually treated him as a coach. I was like, tell me what to do. Like that sort of was my attitude. I was very submitted to him, actually, with heart and soul. I was like, he has the answer and I'm going to get it, basically.
Right.
I'm going to learn this thing. If it kills me, I'm going to learn this thing. So that's how I became a Christian, and it just changed my life forever. Yeah. It just still colors all of everything I do. Yeah. It's the most important thing in my life.
It's amazing, because I grew up, obviously being Italian, I grew up, strict Catholic, right, and going to church and that, and I was an altar boy, and you really, growing up like that, and I actually had 2 aunts who were nuns in Italy.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
so
special.
Yeah, it's just crazy, and like I said, same thing. Growing up, you kind of not appreciate some of the things that are going on in that aspect of life, and you're trying to run away from that because you at least I did, I put it and encompassed it all together with that, the foreigner, that's the way we are there. And I was trying to get away from that, become more Americanized, but, after some time, I stepped away from it. And again, going through difficult times in my life, going through cancer. I had cancer back in 2015. I kind of got angry with God and got, just kind of had the same view as you did, like, sheep, or that's just something to control people, learning things like that. And, but opening things up with just meeting like a certain pastor that really taught me that, you have the open connection to God to just speak to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's Christianity, right? It's just believing that Jesus died for you, and it kind of opens up your life a lot different. Same thing, being a musician and, growing up in that, that 80s era, you start to feel empty, and what's there, other than the imperfections that you're seeing in your own life.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. I mean, I think I just didn't meet the right person.
That's true.
I wasn't exposed to it. And as a matter of fact, I was thinking about it recently that I actually didn't know, I didn't have a relationship. I knew that Christians existed.
Sure.
But I didn't have a relationship with even one person who believed in God until my mid-20s.
Okay. Yeah.
Like zero. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
Who believed in God. So think about that. That's like such a strange thing.
Yeah. How do you can't have the conversation, right?
Yeah. So I was in a vacuum, and that really, that was a shame, because there's so much I could have learned.
Yeah.
Way earlier.
How do you feel now that, that you're a believer and you're in your faith? How do you feel that has shaped the way you move forward now with your family, and things like that? How does that, and your work, how does that impact you?
Well, I mean, it's everything, right? It penetrates every little dimension of you. And for work, for example, I coach people who are not Christians, and I'm like, look, you don't have to be a Christian to be coached by me, as long as you don't mind me quoting the Bible here and there.
Right.
And the reason for that is because I will do you a disservice if I don't show you the divine nature of work.
Sure.
And don't allow you to at least consider that you have a higher calling that is holy and sacred, and it's, comes from a higher place. And I mean, that is so inspiring. How, at least give me a chance to tell you that this is a real thing, right?
Sure.
So, that's So theology of work is one of the things that I'm actually very interested in. I think I'm probably going to start doing more talks in churches.
Okay.
So if you're listening, if you want to invite me, please invite me. Because I think Christians, generally speaking, have landed in a strange, unhealthy place, in the sense that work is work and faith is faith.
Yeah.
So it's almost like work is a secular thing, not a sacred thing.
Right.
And I think if you land there, you're doing yourself and the people you serve in your workspace a disservice, because if you treat it as a sacred thing, you will do way better in your workspace. You will produce much more value. You will bring more joy to you, more fulfillment to you. Right. So I'm definitely going to do more speaking in churches about the theology of work, and it's really amazing how you can see actually where somewhere in Christianity those things got separated. Yeah,
you really can.
But it was not in the times of Jesus.
No,
not in the Old Testament, not in the New Testament.
Nope. Right.
It's very integrated.
It's the whole life.
So that's one thing. And then, of course, family. I come from 3 generations of broken homes.
Sure.
And I literally did not know how to choose a woman, how to court a woman, how to marry a woman, how to treat her. I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I was coached and trained by my community, my mentors, and by scripture. And I became a new person. I literally became a new person. I couldn't hold a relationship to save my life. And it was just heartbreaking for me, for others. And I literally vowed, this has to stop.
Yeah.
Generation after generation after generation, And I basically said, look, I can be a mediocre professional or singer or artist or entrepreneur, but I will not be a mediocre husband and father.
Yeah.
And I meant
very
it.
good.
And I am an extraordinary husband and father. I really am. and I've prioritized that over business, over money, over everything. For now 20 plus years, right?
You have to.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. It's so 25 years now I've been married, and we're so in love.
Beautiful.
My kids respect me. They love our marriage. Their kids sort of give me a hard time going, Dad, you sort of messed it up for us, because, who can live up to the standard, right? So, but it's a good thing when your kids they brag about your marriage to their friends.
Yeah.
And that's not normal.
It's not, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah. So they definitely brag, and they go, man, Mom and Dad, they love each other. Right. So that's another thing. I mean, there's so much friendships, relationships, meaning of life, even sort of you treating your body with respect.
Sure. That too.
So there, it's like, it never ends. The goodness never ends.
Do you find that when you do bring this up to people who are, non-believers or atheists or whatnot, that they do start to crack a little bit and see what you're talking about might be something they are interested in? Yeah,
I do. Yeah. Well, because I bring it with such sincerity,
right,
and no judgment. I'm like, look, I just want you to do well.
Yeah,
and not everybody responds, and it's actually not even time for everybody. Not everybody believes in it's not the right time for everyone, right?
Right.
It might be the right time speaking to me, but maybe they'll remember this talk, and then, a year, 5 years from now, they'll have another one, and something sinks in.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do is to share my faith, my journey, and actually offer help. Like, not just to share, but I go, hey, like, if this is resonating, I'll help you. Like, I'll literally sit down and study the Bible with you.
Yeah.
And the reason I offer that is because somebody did it for me.
Yep.
And if they hadn't done it that way, if they had just said, hey, just go pray and, go find a church somewhere.
Right.
that's not how, that's not how it happened. People sat down with me. They studied the Bible. We had meetings. We prayed together. I asked all kinds of questions, even provocative questions sometimes, because I wanted to rattle them,
Yeah.
And I would like test them and stuff like that. I would swear in front of them to see, get a laugh out of it, that kind of thing. And so I just did stupid things, but they were so patient, right, and kind to me. And I feel like the way, the best way to become a Christian is for someone to teach you how. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. It makes sense. So, just kind of going back to the theme of the book, do you think, I know a lot of people do see it, but do you think that in this day and age now in America that, Christians are becoming more and more ostracized or just pushed off to the side? The way, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, you can make fun of Christians all day long.
Sure.
But no one will make fun of Muslims, for example.
No, right.
Or Jews.
Right.
They won't, right? Because it's off limits culturally.
Yeah.
But to like really make it, go after the Christians, 100%.
Yeah. It's like we're on the whipping post almost all of a sudden. Oh,
totally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like, and the thing is, it's fine. Honestly, like, I think I write it in the book even, that we've been around for 2,000 years.
Right.
We've seen empires rise and fall, baby, and we're still here. So it's fine, right? But I do think that definitely the trend to sort of like push Christianity out, is definitely a thing, and I find it to be. I understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's an ideological shift that has happened that sort of swept the West, and now is in America for sure.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it would be very damaging to human flourishing.
Yeah.
Why? Well, think about people that are sort of anti-Christian. A lot of them call themselves sort of humanist.
Right.
So, and they were like, well, it's, we want respect. We want the respect for all kinds of choices of races. We want freedom. We want this, we want that. we don't want racism. Of course, we don't want race. The thing is, all of the things that they profess, all of them are in existence because of Christianity.
Because of Christianity, correct.
In modern society, they're all are derivatives from the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
So I don't remember who said that, but it says that in the West, even atheists have Christian dreams.
Yeah.
But because they just refuse to see where this whole thing grows from.
Right.
And it grows from the teaching of Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can, shut down Christians and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's totally fine to criticize Christians. I think it's fine.
Sure.
I think it's wonderful to criticize Christians. Hold us accountable, but not hold us accountable before your sort of relativist ideology.
Right.
Hold us accountable compared to Scripture. That's actually a healthy thing.
Right, because there are Christians out there that are just, you know what I mean? They're not who we are, right?
No, yeah.
It's like that in every walk of life and every religion, right?
Yeah,
and usually those are the ones that are the loudest for some reason.
Every religion has its crazies, right? So,
Correct.
So then, okay, you want to stereotype everybody like that crazy person?
Sure.
Okay, go right ahead, but you know that's not true, right? So,
right.
But I think if a debate is fantastic and respectful debate is wonderful.
Yeah.
And this is what America is all about, right? It's acceptance, but I do think that yes, it's not we're not the most popular kids on the block
not
these
right
days.
Now. Yeah.
But even that's a good thing, actually, because it sifts the Christian sort of population. Look, if it's popular to be, a Christian, all kinds of weird people are
You're right.
Christians.
Yeah.
If it's deeply, deeply unpopular or even dangerous to be a Christian, then only the true believers.
True believers, yeah, that's very true.
So in that way, I feel like, hey, win-win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because I see, you see it and it's nice to see, especially like right now, Hollywood, it's great. It's all crazy. You know what I mean? And movies are coming out. But every once in a while, you'll see an actor or somebody out there that sticks to their beliefs, right? And they slip in, little things here and there. And it's nice to see that you're right. The ones that are just off the rails are moving away from it because it's not popular anymore.
Yeah.
And it's better.
But
I think it's better off.
When I became a Christian, I was literally at the peak of my career in all of that post-Soviet space. So it's 15 different countries. And it was not yet popular to be a Christian.
Right.
It was accepted. This was mid 90s. But especially to be an evangelical Christian, not a Russian Orthodox Christian.
Right.
Was definitely not popular.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was perceived as foreign.
Yes.
To the land.
Or cult-like or something.
Yeah. Like Italians would say, we're Catholics. That's what we do, right?
Right.
Sort of the same thing, right? And but I was, I have no filter, I guess, and maybe it's not that. Maybe I was actually so grateful and so transformed that I went very loud right away about my faith. And I literally had 2, maybe 3 magazine covers where on the magazine cover, I say, I'm a devoted Christian now. Nice. Like, so I was like in your face, basically. But I felt like, look, this changed my life so powerfully that why would I not proclaim it from the rooftops? Basically, So that was sort of my mode. I got in a lot of trouble for it though in the press.
Oh, of course,
even friends, and they were like, "Dude, you joined the cult. What is wrong with you? And you're a buzzkill."
Well, especially in the music business, right? I mean,
And I had the reputation, the opposite reputation,
right?
So it's like such a 180 that people didn't even believe it. They're like, "Yeah, right. This is just a phase." Yeah,
That's funny though.
Yeah. So people. I lost friends over this for sure.
You do. It's unfortunate, I it's funny for me, I was, growing up in the 80s, again, all the bands and things like that I did were all like heavy metal, Iron Maiden, that type of thing, But what's funny is that I learned more And that pushed me more towards God than anything else, because I started reading lyrics that these bands were taking from the Bible. And I was like, how strange is that this is what kind of made me want to hear more and learn more, because in Catholic Church, especially Italian, we didn't learn anything about Revelations and that kind, right? Yeah, and that intrigued me. I mean, especially when I heard Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden, and it's all about Revelations. And I said, what's this? Why am I not learning this in Sunday school? And that helped me crack the Bible open myself.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And to start reading it and learning a little bit more. And then that got me even more involved with it. And I said, wow, this is pretty interesting. And I never looked at it as, well, just because, I believe in Christ now, or just because now I'm reading the Bible, I can't like this type of music, or I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like you know where you are in your life, and I'm not going to let something like, a band or or somebody else's lifestyle influence me.
Yeah, sure.
To change my life or do something, bad to anybody. It's not who I am,
That's right. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I did have to change. I had to cut a few songs off of my.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
because I had some pretty trashy stuff going on. Even some stuff we did on stage. I was like, we're not doing it anymore. And some of the, because I had a band and some dancers, and the dancers were so mad because they loved that sort of spicy stuff. And I was like, we're not doing it anymore.
It just doesn't work. I used to drop the F-bomb on stage constantly, right?
Yeah,
and I'm Italian, right? That's like human nature to us. But I remember my drummer one time, who was, more of a Christian than I was at the time, and he said, dude, that's not good, man, and so somebody actually spliced up a whole bunch of shows that we did and gave me this like F-bomb trailer, they called it. And when I listened back, I said, it's not a good look. Yeah.
Well, you learn.
Yep.
You learn. That's funny. It's not heavy metal. Is Kiss heavy metal? No, it's classic rock.
Yeah, classic rock. I mean, nowadays everything heavy metal is classic rock.
Yeah, I guess so. But I used to be. It's so interesting. I had a very eclectic. Did I tell you the story about Kiss?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
let's hit it.
So my I used to love the logo for Kiss. The Lightning S. And so I would sit in a classroom and I would doodle and I would sort of write these logos, Michael Jackson, Kiss, Adidas. And then I think I write it in the book, though. That eventually, I didn't write this in the book, but I loved it so much. And we had no access to merch of any kind, right? So my grandma literally handmade a wool hat, a winter hat.
Yeah.
With Kiss.
Nice.
Like it's handmade, right?
Yeah.
By my grandma.
Right.
And, so I wore it everywhere. And then sort of what I write is about if you pursue opportunities, if you dream big, eventually things happen that you never expected. So I find myself 15 years later, producing a album for an Eastern European band. I had a production company in LA. In the studio of Kiss, I hired the producer who did all of Psycho Circus for Kiss. Like the studio is full of these platinum albums. And I even hired one of their, I forget his name, but he was a member, and then he was not a member.
Okay.
But he was, one in Kiss for 5 or 7 years or something like that.
Okay.
He did a solo for me in the album.
Oh, nice.
And I just found myself sitting there looking around going, I used to make my grandma make me a winter hat. Now I'm sitting in the studio working with these people.
With them, yeah.
It's just crazy, right? So it's really remarkable to sort of put those pieces together.
Yeah, and how amazing that it can show people out there listening that no matter where you come from, if you dream big enough and you just keep focused on what you want in life, you can achieve it.
Yeah. It's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
Right. And that's sort of part of the reason why I love coaching is that I go, most people that I see, most people that I coach, I go, "Oh, you can do so much better than this."
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
let's work on that.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
Well, you can see the potential in people and the light that's there, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to pull it out of them, because I honestly believe that people don't see their own perfection, right? They see their imperfections, and that amplifies more than their perfections.
You're absolutely right. Most people do not reach even close to their potential.
Yeah.
They don't. And I find that to be tragic, right? So,
Yeah.
And because I come from such lack of opportunity, like if I come from such lack of opportunity, like zero, and I see my life going certain ways, when I look at somebody like that going, dude, you have all the opportunities in the world.
Right.
Seriously, you have to do this, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's crazy, man.
That's how I think about it.
Awesome. Well, we're coming up on time. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but yeah, definitely, everybody out there listening, check it out. It's The Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America. It's a love letter from an immigrant. It is, it's touching. There's a lot of killer stories in here. Just look at, especially for us here in the United States, to be able to look at our lives from, and what we have here to offer, just from the eyes of someone who grew up in a country that just didn't afford, you didn't even have freedom of speech.
Nope.
I mean, that's something, especially today and now in today's day and age, where we have been very close, right?
Yes.
To not,
a lot of censorship.
A lot of censorship. And, I don't think that people really realize how close we've come to losing a lot of that. So definitely pick up the book. And I also love that you have a video series, right? That goes along with the book. So, guys, there's QR codes on here that you can scan that goes to the video series also. And if people want to reach out to you for coaching, what's the best way to reach you?
Okay, so if you are like, wow, this guy, I need to find out how to be coached by him.
Right.
Go to exponential.life. The exponential spelled without the E, starts with an X, exponential.life. So that's the coaching stuff. But if you go, hey, this is really cool stuff. I'm maybe not ready for coaching, but I'd love to get more inspiration and more tools. Go to christianrayflores.com. That's my Substack newsletter.
Right.
And I basically drop 2 episodes, one for free and one for those who choose to subscribe.
Definitely.
Paid members a week. And it's really good stuff. Like I post the interviews that I do, new episodes of my podcast, just stuff that I find that is useful for human flourishing. Basically, I put it on the newsletter.
Definitely. And earlier you mentioned if there's churches listening out there. So I know my men's group, we meet every Wednesday night, and they always listen to my show. So you guys can contact Christian to come out and speak. Definitely be able to reach the right group of people and get the right message out there is very important nowadays, especially nowadays. We're getting so much noise, so much noise that we want to really rip through it. And as far as Christians go, getting the right message and really learning to be more of compassionate and loving people, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
They can reach that on your website too, right? Just to reach out to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm definitely eager. I feel that for professionals to really unify your faith with your work and make it sacred. I think it's an incredible boost. You can see all kinds of things that never happened for you before actually happen if you just make the connection.
Yeah. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's awesome, man. I could sit here and talk to you for another hour. Just great, man. But I appreciate, don't go anywhere. I appreciate you being on the show. Definitely an amazing conversation, because it's so refreshing to have somebody with your outlook, come on the show and give your story. So I want to thank you very much, and hang on, everybody else. We'll be right back. right, guys, that's my interview with Christian Ray Flores, the author of Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America, a love letter from an immigrant. This was a great book, and I'm going to leave a link in the description so you guys can go ahead and pick up his book. Like I said, it's a pretty good read. I read it on the plane back from Vegas to Chicago. I couldn't put it down. And I couldn't wait to get home and get this interview in with Christian. And what an interview was that? I have to say, it has to be in the top 5 of my favorite interviews I've done in the last 5 years. Just what a great guy. What an amazing story, right? To grow up like that and be able to see America from a different lens than we do here in America, and how we take things for granted, right? Just imagine that. So if you want to reach out to Christian, please check out his website, ChristianRayFlores.com. He has his own podcast. You can check out the show, Headspace by Christian Flores, which is weekly strategies for success and significance. It just definitely motivates you. And if you want Christian to come out and speak at an event or for your company or your church, please go ahead and check out ChristianRayFlores.com. Send out an email. Let them know that you heard him on the Beard Speaks podcast. That is right. And if you want to get a hold of us, send an email to thebeardspeakspodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check us out on all our socials and go to our website at thebeardspeakspodcast.com. I love you guys. God bless. We'll see you on the next one.